Hi! Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. I am MrWarrenHayes, and in this very special, auspicious occasion, which is not a Thursday evening, because that's usually when the MrWarrenHayes Show takes part, I'm here on a Saturday to talk about Pro Wrestling Eve's Women Behaving Badly show that just ended a few moments ago. A few moments ago? What are you talking about, Warren? Yeah, a few moments ago, because I'm recording this live right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. It's typically what I do. It's my MO. It's my thing. I'm not a fan of speaking into the void. I like to know that there are people out there and who can pop in, ready to chat, ready to talk it up, talk professional wrestling. And it's also fun to talk about other stuff that WWE, AEW, and WA. Not that they're bad things to talk about. They're fun shows. They all have their qualities. They all have their not qualities. But it's good to talk about something completely different once in a while, once a month. I get to settle in with some Pro Wrestling Eve. And that's a good time. It's a good change of pace. So I'm glad that I'm doing this right now. Right here live on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Got Hail Pizza and Dave, good guy Dave, are in the chat here. And that's the kind of, and that's fantastic. Thank you for being here. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for watching live or on your own accord, whenever whenever you feel like it, whenever it's good for you, here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. And if you're liking what you're seeing, if you're listening live or on demand, whenever, why don't you think about giving the video a thumbs up? So that way you can join in the possibilities of creating more exposure for the show. Get it out there more, because YouTube likes those thumbs up things. Let me tell you. And maybe at the same time you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, because the MrWarrenHayes is available on podcast apps just about everywhere. You can leave us a review, a subscription, a like, a follow, whatever it is you need to do to show some love to the MrWarrenHayes Show. That's very much appreciated right there. So, we're here. We're ready. We're good to go. We're going to talk about today's Pro Wrestling Eve show, which was fun as always. I really like Pro Wrestling Eve, Pro Wrestling Eve shows, because they're just the idea. It's always been, Pro Wrestling Eve has always positioned itself as an underground show, a little on the punk side of things, and it always has that feeling, from the Resistance Gallery. It always has that very do-it-yourself, very Resistance-y like vibe to it. I dig it. It's a good time, and it's always good to see the cream of the crop of women's wrestling out there as well, competing over there in the UK. Oh, and by the way, if you want to support the MrWarrenHayes Show as well, the super chats are open, so you can drop us a super chat if you like, and I will read your question or comment on the air. So the evening started strong with Laura DiMatteo defeating Kira Chimera. I think it's Chimera? I think it was Chimera. And I should have wrote the pronunciation down, because Emily Reed was doing the ring introductions, introduced her, I think, as Chimera, and she went to correct Emily. She said, no, that's not how you pronounce it. So Chimera's like, oh, okay, no. So I'm pretty sure it's Kira Chimera versus Laura DiMatteo. Laura DiMatteo, Italian, Kira Chimera, French. It's a continental battle right there. Chimera gets a stunner early on DiMatteo, and she strikes hard, but man, this match did not last long. Laura DiMatteo, Chimera got a really nice tornado suplex and a great German, but DiMatteo fought back with a dropkick, an enziguri missile dropkick, and the tombstone pile driver for the win. Quick match, in and out. Great way to get the crowd into it, because DiMatteo is a fan favorite in Eve. She's so good. They're still working at that feud she has with Sky Smithson as well. they dropped some hints with commentary as we were going forward. So yeah, and even after in her post-show interview, DiMatteo was asking her, what's it going to take for you to get this guy Smithson? And she says, I need her to stop breathing. Ooh. It's going to get brutal at some point here, let me tell you. Now, throughout the evening, we also had a tournament of sorts. We had two matches to determine the two contenders who are going to main event the show for the basically challenging or defending, or it's a tournament, goddammit, to determine who's going to win the EVE International Championship. So essentially, you had Sammy Jane, the main event Empress, who was fighting Haleh in a match, and the winner of that was going to move on to the main event. And before that, you had a number one contender essentially as well, the Mother of Chaos, Kaylee, versus, and actually defeating, the greatest of the Great White North, Madison Miles. I wasn't familiar with Madison Miles, despite the fact that clearly she's Canadian. She's from Nova Scotia, built from Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia, by the way, probably one of my favorite places in the world. One of my favorite places in Canada. Out in the Atlantic. It's a beautiful country, surrounded by the ocean. It's lovely to go in the summertime. It's fantastic beaches. And the seafood. Oh, the seafood you can eat. And people are so cool out there as well. Halifax is a great city. Nova Scotia, man. There's all sorts of great reasons to go there. Now, that's where she's from. So I did a little research before popping in here, folks, because that's why they pay me the mediocre bucks. And Madison Miles has been wrestling since 2015. She's 20 years old. So that basically makes she started like at 15 years old, if you want to believe that, to our defense or her defense or whoever's defense. She wrestled 2 matches in 2015, but since then she's wrestled nearly 260 matches. That's crazy, and I had never heard of her. Is my mic too? Is my mic too loud? This is when you tell me that my microphone is too loud? Yeah, look at that. Why is my mic that loud? Hang on a second. Thank you for telling me this far in, chat. Thank you, Bob Aruski and Nathan, though. I do appreciate it. The joys of doing things live. Am I right? Let me just fix this up real quick. As I keep talking about Madison Miles, who is really so she's to some extent new to the game, because she wasn't familiar to me, but looking at her record, she's been around the block a couple of times. Yeah, would you look at that? Why is it maxed out? Windows is a weird operating system, folks. It's a weird operating system. Anyway, so essentially, so that's it. So so basically, Madison Miles, fantastic worker. I really liked her match tonight. She looks extremely comfortable, and I was looking at where she's been. She's wrestled in Rev Pro. She's wrestled in Rev Pro, in all sorts of promotions all over the place. This was her first match in EVE. It was her debut, and she starts off with some arm drags. She hits some chops and a basement drop kick on Kaylee, but Kaylee does get the upper hand. Hits a big running knee to the face. She hits a Death Valley driver and a running knee right to the jaw. That puts Madison away. So Kaylee will be facing the winner of Sammy Jane versus Haleh. This was another short match, a little longer than DiMatteo's match. DiMatteo was quite in essence, if we're talking amongst ourselves here, was a squash. But she has some, Madison Miles has some great energy, great presence so far. Like, she's very comfortable in the ring, knows how to work the crowd. she has an energy which kind of reminds me of Session Moth Martina to a certain extent, although she's not, she's, we're not talking gimmick infringement here. I'm just talking about what she exudes, the way she handles herself in the ring. It reminds me a lot of her. Good stuff. Hopefully she'll do some more Eve dates. Maybe we'll even see her go around the indie circuit a little more. There's I feel that there's something there. There's a lot of this is a name that you have to keep your eyes on, I think, gals and guys. And Casey's a great heel, but I mean we've seen her before. She's just really, really good at what she does. Next, we had the Princess Diana of Eve, Jenna, defeating Clementine. My God, Jenna she's a special kind of talent, isn't she, though? She's a special kind of talent. The way she handles herself, the charisma that she has, the confidence she has in the ring, able to do comedy, bring it back down more seriously. It's good stuff. She's really, really good at what she does. Absolutely unique. And of course, she has Emily, when she's doing presentations, run down everyone she's pinned, or at least anyone of note. Manami Toyota, Becky Lynch, Kaylee Ray. That's right. Kaylee Ray, Nikki Cross. Pinned all of them. Tony Storm. And then Clementine obviously is in the ring. And to begin the match, Jenna has a gift for Clementine, and it's a Terry's chocolate orange. Now, if you're British, you know what this is. This is one of these. It's a classic British treat. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's orange. It's orange flavored chocolate. Right, which is delicious in and about itself, but and I know that being a part of probably there's a lot of us in Canada who know what it is. Probably a lot of us around the Commonwealth know what this is, and essentially you get it and it's in a ball. It's a ball of chocolate, but which is sliced as an orange, like orange slices. But you sort of have to whack. You have to whack the orange, the Terry's chocolate orange, to sort of split them apart. You can't just like easily peel them off. They're sort of like, that's the gimmick, and that it's actually part of their marketing. It's more than just the gimmick. It's part of that's how they sort of market themselves at the same time. So Clementine has the orange, and you see that's the joke. You're giving Clementine Terry's chocolate orange. You see, there's funny fun stuff. And then so Clementine tries to crack it open, but she can't. And Jenna's like, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna do it for you." And then she takes it, and then she has it in her hand. Jenna does, and then she turns to the audience and says, "To open this up, you need a really hard surface." And she just turns around and cracks it across Clementine's head. And it was so funny. It was really, really funny. Clementine she's also fairly new to Eve, but such a presence, and already with a very simple gimmick, just a likable, absolutely charismatic human being, but just very, very likable. She's so good at what she's so good already at what she does. Jenna is in, so then Jenna gets into control really, really easily. Hits a neck breaker. Clementine fights back with some sledges. Jenna calls for a timeout, but there's no timeouts in wrestling. Jenna eats a headbutt, and boy, does she sell it. She does a combination Ric Flair Triple H sell there, where she sort of just stands around days before face planting. Jenna. Okay, but now here's another spot here. Clementine goes for the People's Clembo, which is essentially, you've guessed it, the People's Elbow. But the thing here, Jenna pops right back up as Clementine gets ready to do it, because Jenna has her own version of the People's Elbow, she calls it the People Princess Elbow. So they sort of argue as to who's going to pull off the move, right? Yes, it's very meta. It's fine. Kayfabe is dead, folks. Don't get all bent out of shape. It's not as if the people's elbow was that big of a move to begin with. So they turn to the audience to take a poll. Who wants to see who wants to see the people's princess elbow or the people's Clembo? And it turns out people want to see the people's Clembo more. So Jenna lies back down to let Clementine do the people's Clembo, but Jenna moves out of the way. Clementine eats Matt. So then Jenna does the people's princess elbow. That was a fun little moment there. Jenna sneaks in a pin after an exchange between the both. She's basically standing. She's holding Clementine up by her legs, and Clementine's shoulders are onto the mat. Referee calls it. He calls the 3 count. And yeah, there you go. That's the match. Post-match, Jenna hands the microphone over to Clementine, saying that she's part of the next generation of Eve. She's been doing this for 10 years, and Eve is going to be in good hands with people like Clementine. And we learned that Willie Mack is Clementine's favorite wrestler. How about that? Favorite wrestler anywhere of all time. Next, we have the first of 2 Eve International Championship fights. The main event, Empress and champion Sammy Zayn. I was going to say Sammy Jane. You can forgive me on that one, can you? Please. Defeated Haleh in a good match. This was a lot of fun. There was a lot of back and forth to start. Sammy gets a near fall early on. Haleh runs into a back elbow and gets taken down with a second rope Hurricane Rana, and then it's followed by a springboard dropkick. Jane goes for a dive because Haleh is out on the floor, but Haleh kicks her as she's coming through the ropes. Haleh picks her up, slams her on the apron, hits a leg drop on the apron as well. Gets her back into the ring, hits a big back suplex, and starts straining Jane's neck and hits a neck breaker. Sammy Jane fights back but runs into a big Haleh boot. And then Haleh starts to work her hamstrings. And she locks Jane up into a pendulum submission, which is not something you see every day. That was really cool. Sammy fights back with an enziguri and a slingshot DDT, followed by a missile dropkick. But Haleh hits a big spine buster, and she covers Jane, who kicks out at 2.9. Haven't done one of those in a while. A Samoan drop can't keep Sammy Jane down, but a V-trigger by Jane knocks Haleh onto her back, and Jane covers her, and Haleh kicks out as well at 2.9. Haleh Tries to do a satellite air crash, I guess you'd call it, but misses a little bit on the floating. But nonetheless, she hangs on to Jane and follows through on the air raid crash. It was just a little awkward, but was pretty good. She goes up top, Jane with a jumping kick and a Frankensteiner. Hits a Death Valley driver, and that's the match right there. Haleh does not go forward. Sammy Jane retains and will be meeting Casey later on in the main event. We get a video of the Bad Bitches Club, who call out the Medusa Complex for their tag team titles. Sure. And our next match of the evening is the beauty wrestler Zoe Lucas defeating Rebel Kenny. And another fun match we got here. Kenny gets to the ring and spots her girlfriend in the audience and starts making out with her. That sort of puts Zoe Lucas in all sorts of sorts, right? And all sorts of sorts. And she says, whoo, cooling herself down. It was a fun little moment. And following that, Zoe Lucas pulls out a bottle of hand sanitizer, and she asks Kenny to put it on. Like, could you apply some on your hands? And Kenny's like, yeah, sure. She takes the bottle and she starts applying some on her hands and rubs her hands and into her trunks as well. In the meantime, Lucas, she sees that and she just like from head to toe just covers herself in Purell, starts dousing herself, rubbing it all over her body. She's not leaving an inch of skin bare for any germ contamination there. Kenny's in control early of this match. She gets some shoulder tackles on Lucas in the corners, followed up by a power slam. Follows by a power slam, covers Lucas, who puts her leg on the bottom rope, but the referee doesn't see it. Calls for the bell, counts for 3. But Lucas loses her mind. She loses her mind. Says, my foot was on the bottom rope, ref. What are you talking about? The referee's like, wait, what? Are you sure? I didn't see it. And he goes to see Rebel Kenny and asks her, well, was her foot on the bottom rope? Did you see it? And Kenny goes like, yeah, it kind of was. Establishing the fact that Kenny doesn't want to win a match if it isn't a clean win, right? She doesn't want any ambiguity. There we go. Jeez, Warren. As far as her victories go, she wants a clean win. She's not going to sit back and accept a sleazeball win like this. So they restart the match. And as the match restarts, Lucas hits Kenny with a roundhouse kick to the side of the face. Kenny just drops. Lucas hits a chop and an X Factor, covers Kenny but only gets 2. She hits a scorpion kick on Lucas. And then goes for a finisher. Not quite sure what it's called, but it's kind of like a leg drop from an inverted DDT position. Pretty cool. She gets the win. And Rebel Kenny is left in the ring and she says, yeah, I'm distracted. And I was going to say, oh, it's because you made out with your girlfriend before the match started. No, that's not why. She's distracted because she and Sky Smithson used to be partners, and Smithson turned on her at Wrestle Queendom, and she knows Smithson is there. Yeah, Smithson was on commentary, and she wants to talk. So Smithson comes to the ring. Smithson, as she's coming, says, I understand that you don't like some of her colleagues because Smithson is part of the Uprising, along with Eve Champion, OReilly, Nightshade, and Livy Grace. And she says, I know that maybe you're not into my friends. I get that. Some friends aren't into other people's friends. I understand that. But right here, what I did was not about friendship. It was about my career. Kenny says, Sky can be spiteful and vindictive, but that's what she likes about her. And she said, but the one thing is that I felt I could always trust you. Now I can't trust you anymore. So Sky, sort of to get her point across, turns to the monitors, or to the Evetron, let's call it like that, the big screen. It says, roll the footage. And you have footage of Piper Niven, Viper, defeating Kaylee Ray for the Eve Championship at Queendom. I think it was 2 years ago. And she says, she being Sky Smithson says, she says, look at what they did there. They wrestled, and then not too long after that, they fucked off, gave the finger to this company, and went off to do what? To get a paycheck, to collect a paycheck. They turned their back on the company, and Luca was in the audience. And then you see a younger Sky Smithson in the audience looking at that and saying to herself, hey, you know what? This was me. This is what I was looking forward to, basically making a point that Viper and KLR gave up on Eve to do their own thing, just like Rebel Kenny gave up on her. Because while she was injured and hurt, she didn't come to check on her, but OReilly and Nightshade and Livy Grace did. I know who my friends are. I know who's looking after me. It says, you could have come in the back to talk to me. You could have found me and we could have settled this in the back, but no, you decided to call me out here. You Rebel Kenny, you need to figure out who the good friend is. Ooh. Shades of gray, not quite as black and white as one may think here. Some good points. So this story moves on, which I'm sure we're gonna get a fun culmination to. It's interesting. We'll see what happens. But Sky Smithson stayed in the ring because it was time for her match against Session Moth Martina, who comes to the ring with her cans, of course, and she raises one of her cans for a toast to the women because it's International Women's Day tomorrow, and she toasts to the women. She toasts once, she toasts twice, she toasts 3 times. To the women. And then she turns and offers her can to Smithson, saying to her, here, you have a drink as well. For the women. This guy takes the can and cracks it on Martinez's face. And that's the match that starts right there. But Martina gets back really quickly into it. She does that rolling, I guess, stunner flip, I'm not quite sure how to call it, followed by a kick, and she starts chopping the shit out of Smithson as well. But Sky fights back with a drop kick, some heavy strikes on Martina in the corner. Smithson is really a good striker. I like her. I really like her wrestling style. Very strike heavy, strength based. Yeah, I dig it, and she's very credible at it as well. She looks good. She starts working Martina's taped shoulder. Martina fights back with an elbow and an enziguri as well. She hits a knee and a spinning kick, but Smithson hits a spine buster. The ref, Smithson sort of distracts the ref and tries to hit Martina with a low blow, which she no-sells. She goes to the second rope, hits a slingshot code breaker, covers Smithson, but she kicks out at 2. And Smithson, not too long after that, finishes the match with the Smithson effect, which is essentially a Blade Runner or a Sister Abigail, whatever you want, whatever your poison, whatever you call your poison. That's essentially what it is. Puts Martina away. Sky Smithson on the up and up, clearly being established as one of the future stars of Eve, and I really like how she delivers her promos as well. I think she's good. There's some work, but I think she's really good. Her in-ring is fantastic, and she knows how to get heat as well. She's a good professional wrestler. It's good stuff. We're already going to talk about the semi-main event, the co-main event, as it was billed, as Eve champion, the Fighting Irish. Rhea O'Reilly successfully defended her championship against the alpha female Jazzy Gabbard, recently freed from NXT UK, from a WWE contract. And when you look at Jazzy Gabbard wrestle tonight, you understand why she wanted out of there, because I had not seen a single match in UK that let Gabbard do what she did tonight. This was a fun match. They get into a shoving match early on. Jazzy goes right with the punches onto O'Reilly. They start strong styling each other in the ring. Gabbard gets the upper hand, takes her down. Some ground and pound follows. She triangles O'Reilly. This Gabbard has MMA training, so she's really good. She was extremely crisp in everything she was doing. They brawl into the audience. This was really fun. Brawl into the audience. They fight onto the bar at the back of the Resistance I want to say Resistance Arena, but that's not it. The Resistance Gallery. And they fight right to the bar. Gabbard tosses O'Reilly into the bar. She climbs on the bar, gets O'Reilly into a sleeper hold. And what does O'Reilly do to get out of it? I'm going to give you 3 choices. Okay, chat? I'm going to give you 3 choices as to what O'Reilly did to get out of this. She flipped her over, a la Snapmare. She hit a jawbreaker, or she grabbed the fork and started stabbing Jazzy Gabbard. What do you think, chat? What do you think that Rhea O'Reilly started to do? Leaving you time to answer. Do. Well, yeah, she started stabbing her with a fork. She grabs a fork, starts stabbing her in the arm and in the head with it. And she uses a cable, probably like an extension cord, a TV monitor cable. She starts strangling Jazzy Gabbard with the cord. She tosses her into the scenery. The fun brawling moment there on the outside. It was pretty wild. She gets Gabbard back into the ring. O'Reilly goes for a chair and cracks it across her back. No, the referee didn't disqualify. I guess it's AEW rules. O'Reilly hits her finisher, which is a double underhook DDT, which you may know as a few other names around. She calls it the readjustment, which is a cool name. Much better than paradigm shift, if we're being honest with each other. But Jazzy kicks out of it. Jazzy charges back with a clothesline, but Rhea knees her with her knee brace and hits the readjustment on the chair, which is in the ring, and that gets the job done. Rhea O'Reilly successfully retains the Eve Championship. This was a fun match. Again, not super long, but man, did they make the most of the time that they had. And Gabbard was just laying into O'Reilly. It was a good fight. This was a fight. Don't get me wrong. It was good. Rhea O'Reilly is good at what she does. Jazzy Gabbard is good. Yeah, I know she calls it the petrol bomb, but it's also the readjustment, right? Like there's two names to it. I checked. And I think even commentary called it the readjustment. So there you go. Either way, the name, it's a much better name than Paradigm Shift. After the match, O'Reilly cuts a promo. She says that there is only one alpha female, and this is her ring. And that brings Jenna out. And she's like, hey, buddy, your ring, this is my ring. I've been doing this for like over a decade. And, I wrestled when you were just a trainee, when you were, we had our tag team together, basically laying out their history together. She and, both of them, Jenna's history with O'Reilly. And she even says, you say you're a champion and you're doing stuff, but your championships, your victories are always a little tainted, not always legit. You always cheat your way to victories. O'Reilly doesn't care for these aspersions on her character. But what we have to glean from the situation here is that Jenna challenges Rhea O'Reilly for the championship at the Eve 10th anniversary show in May. At the anniversary show in May, on May 10th. But Jenna's like, don't get me wrong, and she also adds a stipulation. It's like, don't get me wrong, if I can't win the title there, this is not only going to be the last time that I'm going to challenge for it. I'm done. I'm retiring. If I can't win that title, I don't have a career. So that's an interesting stipulation right there. So it's going to be an interesting one. Title is on the line. If Jenna loses, she retires. And she has been wrestling for quite a long time. She's a veteran's veteran in a certain way. This will be an interesting one to keep your eye on, because if it didn't make sense for Jenna to win the title, be absolutely okay. We'll see how the things build. But if she doesn't win, ooh, that's going to start raising some eyebrows, I can tell you that much. Emily Reed then took the time just before we got to the main event to make an announcement that on Friday, May 8th, they are going to run an event, they being Pro Wrestling Eve, are going to run an event called No Man's Land. And it is an evening that is going to be open to women, people who identify as women, and non-binary individuals as well. So basically, no guys. Of course, no men wrestling, but that's Pro Wrestling Eve. But all the staff, even people working the show, the crew, it's all going to be women. That's a ballsy thing for Pro Wrestling Eve to do. You know, Emily, before announcing this, went back and sort of talked about the history of Eve, all the firsts that they did, the fact that they always positioned themselves as doing counterculture stuff or going against the grain, trying to shake things up a little, create awareness, so on and so forth. Like I said earlier in the show, the roots of Pro Wrestling Eve are very much in punk, in resistance, right? In anti-establishmentarianism. I wasn't sure I was going to get that whole word out as opposed to single syllables, right? So it's a big deal what they're doing here, and it's very much in tone with what Eve is about and what Eve was for in the first place, which was to create an environment where women could practice wrestling and actually compete as wrestlers, have a safe space where they could thrive. And I know the term safe space isn't always appreciated. I know a lot of people see it as a negative, but it's also something very, very real. And in this day and age, I think it's very, very ballsy for them to do something like this, but it also reinforces their mission statement, which has always been to create a haven for women to exercise what they enjoy in professional wrestling without being reduced to, especially at the time when Eve started, bra and panties matches and pudding matches and evening gown matches. And I've tweeted this out, of course, when the announcement was made, and I've already had people saying, well, can men order the pay-per-view? Don't be stupid. Honestly, don't be stupid with that kind of questioning. And I have other people say, well, that's illegal. I have no idea how British laws work. I really don't. And honestly, it's not up to us to decide this is illegal or not. It shouldn't factor into our opinion about it. And you know what? Your opinion should be, well, good for them. Good for them, because this is exactly what Pro Wrestling Eve was created to do. Whether it's illegal or not, it's not up to us. There'll be plenty of other situations where plenty of other people that can handle this. The Pro Wrestling Eve has certainly tackled this subject. I'm pretty sure they're ready to counter whatever. I don't know I have no idea what the underlying themes are here. How it will or should or will it even go forward? I don't know. The point is that they're putting it on. It's a statement, and it's a bold statement. And if this bothers you in any way, that's all on you. But this is once again another situation where you should, instead of it bothering you or having a knee-jerk reaction like, well, can men order the show? Take a second to just understand why they're doing it. Take a step back to wonder why a promotion like Eve exists in the first place and what it represents and what it was for. This is the kind of situation where you have to listen to the reasons why such events exist. And if you're not if you want to stay tone deaf to it, that's your choice. But you're kind of on the wrong side of history. Take the time to understand what people who have suffered, who have been victimized, who will benefit from this type of situation. Listen to what this type of event can create for them before passing any stupid ass judgments. Being like, well, if it was a all men's show, yeah, but that's not the point. Because men have never been discriminated. It's just as simple as that. And I'm telling you, sometimes if we just took the time to listen to people, to just listen why this type of stuff can be important to someone, I'm sure we would all be in a much better place. If we let people just live their own damn lives instead of trying to impose our own views and stuff. And here I am, a guy sitting here talking about pro wrestling and what I feel you should like to a certain extent. I understand the double-edged sword I'm walking on here. We'd all be better off as well. But I don't impose my way of thinking about wrestling onto anyone. I just express views and I just end up finding like-minded individuals. And ultimately, that's kind of what this kind of event is for as well. Just try to understand. Try to put yourself into someone else's shoes instead of having stupid reactions or flying off the handle, which I'm sure a lot of people will be doing or probably have already done at this point. The event won't be live. It will be available on Eve On Demand. So, hey, you know what? So you don't even have to watch it if you don't like it. Right? Right. But good on them. And it just, like I said, for me, what I get from this situation here, what stands out here is that this is so completely in tune with the mission of Pro Wrestling Eve. It makes sense to me. And as a middle-aged white man, I don't feel left out or pissed off or angry that this is happening. I want to put that on the record. And in fact, good on them. Good on Eve, and I hope they have a wonderful show. I really and sincerely do. Main event time. Kaylee defeated Eve International Champion Sammy Jane to become the new Eve International Champion. Kaylee goes right after Jane before the presentations are over. She gets some strikes in and lays into her. A basement dropkick to the back follows. Yeah! Double knees in the corner. Thank you very much, Tim Traver, for your super chat. Just want to bless you, my buddy. Thank you, Tim. Tim, good friend of the show. I appreciate you being here, my buddy. Double knees in the corner follow, but Sammy avoids another double knees segment and hits a single leg drop kick immediately after. She then hits a springboard missile drop kick and covers, but only gets 2. Kaylee gets back in control with some flying forearms, but Sammy Jane takes her down with a running flying kick, which was really cool. You know what? Because Sammy Jane, she's not a Nia Jax or a Nyla Rose, but she's not a small woman either. So the aerialness that she gets is pretty impressive. Kaylee rolls to the floor and Jane dives onto her, tope suicida, into the audience, but Kaylee gets right back into the ring and hits a suicide dive of her own. They're on the apron next. Kaylee gets Sammy up on her shoulders and hits a fireman's carry slam right on the apron. Hits a sliding knee, covers Jane, who kicks out at 2 again. A little later on, Jane hits this was a favorite spot of the night here. She hits a superplex, hangs on to the superplex, lifts Kaylee up and into a Michinoku driver, which was fantastic. Covers, but Kaylee kicks out. Jane hits a dragon suplex. Kaylee hits a dragon suplex. Kaylee hits a German suplex. They trade some kicks. There's some short arm knees by Kaylee that follows. Jane hits a sit out powerbomb. Still can't put Kaylee away. Kaylee hits a Uranagi. Follows up with some ground and pound. Kaylee goes for a springboard something, but we don't know what that something was because just as he was bouncing off the ropes, Jane runs in and hits a quick German suplex off the ropes just as she's about to fly off. Great timing on that spot. Kaylee hits a knee right to the side of Jane's head, and it looks like Jane is completely out. The ref sort of counts to 3. This was the finish. We have a new international champion, but the ref hesitated to hit the 3 count. Not quite sure what happened. They rung the bell. The match was over. And at first it was like, wait a second. Sammy Jane just got knocked out. Like she got the knee on the side of the head and just knocked out, and the referee wasn't sure what to do. But they called the finish. But no, this was the finish. Everyone got up after and cut some promos. I was like, oh, so the referee screwed up the finish. Basically, I don't know how or why the referee didn't go through with the full 3 count, because clearly this was the finish. Kaylee won the match. She's your new Eve International Champion. And like I said, after everyone's up on their feet, they're cutting promos. Sammy Jane says, Sammy Jane congratulates Kaylee. Tonight she was the better woman, but she wants a rematch on April 4th at the Rise of the Women event. So that's cool. So we've already got a match set up for their next pay-per-view next month. And that's it. That is the conclusion of our evening / afternoon of Pro Wrestling Eve. I thought this was a fun show. I really did. It was super well paced. There was some great matches. Main event was really, really good. Sammy Jane is fantastic at what she does. She's a special kind of talent. Her matches were great with Haleh, with Kaylee. I really liked. Sky Smithson is growing on me more and more. Not that I didn't like her. She's just carving out a place as one of my favorites moving forward. I can't wait to see how far she's ready to go. And man, Jenna challenging for the Eve championship. Sure, sign me up for that. Her and OReilly. That'll be great. That'll be fantastic at the anniversary show. 10 years of Eve. That's an accomplishment in and about itself. For a wrestling promotion to be around for that long, and especially one that has a very activist type of message, that's great stuff. That's great stuff. This was a good show. And you know what's great about Jenna as well? The match with Clementine was equal parts good wrestling and goofiness. And no one was going around saying, oh my God, you're killing the business. When you know what you're getting into, you just enjoy it. Especially when everyone is so good in their roles and so good at what they do. It was a fun match. Everything was fun here on the mat, on this card. If you haven't had the opportunity, you should check it out. If you've never watched an Eve show before, this is a good one to get in. And it's on Fight. Look, you can sign up for Eve Online, or you can get the replays on Fight. It's like $10. An Eve pay-per-view is $10. It's not that big a deal. And if it turns out that you don't like it and it's not for you, it's $10. It's not as if you're dumping $60 on it and then you get really pissed off if it sucks. And just it turns out this was a good show. This was a fun show, you guys. And this was a fun stream as well. I had a good time. It's always a good time to pop on stream and talk wrestling. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I hope you had a good time listening or watching, whatever you decided to do. So I'm going to be back next Thursday right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes for another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I'm going to talk about the rest of the week in wrestling and everything that's happened in between. So be sure to come join me once again. That'll be fun. And if you're popping in for the first time, do consider a subscription and do the notification bell, all that junk, just to make sure you never miss more of me. Want to thank you all for joining me this evening. Thank you, everyone, for your continual support. It is fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing you all again.